So now we have the split. And look at the box on page 130, summary insight. This is summary. We're summarizing. The kingdom is split. 931 BC. Israel in the north, Judah in the south. The rupture would not ever heal completely, and now the Assyrian and Babylonian captivities lie ahead. Here's your summary of the next 400 years of Israel's history. We have two different kingdoms. And we're on page 130, Roman numeral 5, Kings of Israel and Judah. Here's what we need to know, and here's how you're remembering this material. There are 19 kings of Israel in the north. Circle it. All bad. All of them are bad. How do you know they're bad? The narrative will say things like this. And Jeroboam II did evil in the sight of the Lord. King Ahab did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. That's the author's note on whether they were good or bad is they did evil. And it's not surprising that all the Israelite kings did evil because their founder, Jeroboam, founded their nation on idol worship. 2 golden calves, one in Bethel and one in Dan. They're going to have 2 primary non-writing prophets that are prophesying to Israel in the north. One is Elijah, and he's during the reign of Ahab, and one is Elisha during the reign of Jehu. Elijah has the famous battle. Remember, the kings of Israel will begin with idol worship, and then they will be completely sold hook, line, and sinker into worshiping idols for all the 200 years of their run. And they'll be worshiping Baal and Asherah. They'll be worshiping Molech. They're falling in line with all the other nations around them, worshiping all the gods that they see around them. And Elijah's going to be a prophet sent to square off with these idols and square off with these worshipers of these idols. And the famous encounter we have is in 1 Kings 17, when Elijah goes up and has this show off, this square down with the prophets of Baal. Baal is... We have to talk about Baal at some point. Baal is a Canaanite fertility god who the Israelites were particularly prone to go and worship and chase. And naturally, fertility, both for your crops and for to have children, was really important in an agricultural society. Baal was worshipped on, you can Google Baal, it's pretty creepy and kind of gross. Just go look up Baal. Baal was worshipped on high mountains. That's why when you see in the biblical narrative, he established the high places where they would go and worship. The people of Israel played the harlot or played the whore in going to the high places. The high places usually refer to places where gods were worshipped. Why are they worshipped there? Because in the ancient Near Eastern culture, the gods were in heaven, which is up there, and you wanted to get close to them, you go as high as you can get onto mountaintops. And so mountains are also forbidding places. They're scary places. They're not where it's where people fall and they die. They're hard to live up there. And so the gods live up there, and we live down here. And so you would go up to a high place and worship Baal. And Baal was worshipped in this incredibly gross way. Baal was a fertility god who found himself getting, we might say, really distracted with his task of providing rain for the earth. And what Baal needed was to be aroused. He is a fertility god after all, and fertility is tied to sex. And so you would arouse Baal to water the earth, to spew onto the earth. You would arouse Baal by going and having cult prostitute sex in the temple for Baal, which would get Baal's attention. He would be aroused by this. He would then turn his attention towards your land, and then he would provide for you the necessary rain for your crops. It's gross. It's disgusting. And the people of Israel, both Israel and Judah, will be particularly tempted to go and worship Baal. It's an agricultural society. And Elijah will square off with the prophets of Baal on this particular mountain in northwest Israel. They have this showdown. 400 prophets of Baal and Elijah by himself. And they have this showdown over building 2 altars. They both build altars to Yahweh and to Baal. And then Elijah says, go first. Go, you prophets go first. And think about hundreds of people. They begin chanting and singing and doing whatever they can to get Baal's attention. But remember, Baal has a hard time staying focused. And so they begin to cut themselves and sing and chant and dance. And I love the story because Elijah's standing over there going, maybe your God's asleep. Maybe maybe he's taking a nap. Maybe he's going to the bathroom. Where is he? Where is he? Chant louder, chant louder. Yeah, cut yourself more. It's almost humorous watching the story. They finally give up, and Elijah says, tell you what, the showdown was going to be this: which God would come and consume these burnt offerings they had made of wood? Elijah says, throw some water on mine, douse mine, waterlog it, make it completely soaked. In fact, put so much water that you can build a trench around it and fill the trench with water. Waterlog that sucker. And he says, now watch this. Yahweh, show off, do your thing. Prove to them who is really God. And it says fire comes down from heaven, consumes the burnt offering, and it's so hot that it licks up all the water in the little moat that they had dug. And this is the narrative that's happening in these stories. You have the people of Israel wandering to other gods, and these prophets coming and saying, stop, come back to Yahweh. There are primary writing prophets to the people of the kingdom of Israel. They are Amos, Hosea. Remember the story of Hosea and Gomer? That is an illustration of an unfaithful wife with a faithful Yahweh. That's how the Hosea-Gomer story is functioning. And I want you to also write in letter B for the writing prophets, Jonah. Jonah is a writing prophet, but he's actually delivering his message to Israel, not to Nineveh. The story is written to Israel, and the story is basically this: God will give favor to you if you would give the slightest amount of repentance from your idols. That's the story of Jonah. Yes, there's the whale, but it's really not what Jonah's all about. The kings of Judah, here's their summary. Oh, and by the way, finishing on the kings of Israel, put a number 4. So 1, 2, 3, number 4. Their end will be 722 at the hands of Assyria. And that's part of our timeline. The kings of Judah. There are 19 kings and 1 queen. They are almost all bad, but a few are good. We're going to note Hezekiah has a decent run. They have some primary prophetic voices as well. Habakkuk, Isaiah. By the way, Isaiah also, we have Jeremiah, who also writes Lamentations, Joel, Micah, and Zephaniah. So here's where these prophets now fit in. Remember the charts we had on those 2 pages a few pages ago, the dates of the kings and the dates of the prophets. We had to put those together, and that's filling in this chart. And put number 3, the end of the tribes of Judah will be 586 BC. There's our summary of these kingdoms. Now we'll look at the role of prophets in all of this.